So 2022 just started and Apple already hit the $3 trillion market cap. 3 trillion, 4 commas. Numbers like that just don't even make sense when you say out loud anymore, but Apple did it this week. And now I want to make a case as to why, as an investor, if you are looking to get into the market, why you should be heavily focused in tech as a whole going forward. Hi, I'm Randy Vasquez. I'm a musician and a minimalist who's obsessed with tech and finances. And today I want to actually dive deeper into this new milestone that Apple hit with their $3 trillion market cap. Even if it was just for a little bit, they went right back under, but this is the new trend. Just a couple of years ago, Apple barely hit their $1 trillion market cap, followed by other tech companies like Google, Amazon, Microsoft, and the trend is going upward. Now with Apple, it's no surprise that their bread and butter, what sells the most, are iPhones. It always adds up to most of their sales, but in Q4 of last year, 2021, they reported that services and Mac sales were the highest that they've ever been historically. We know that Apple has been pushing to go into the services more and more, to lean in more into like the Google or the Amazon side of things, where they can make a customer for life if you utilize their software features. But at the end of the day, their bread and butter is still hardware, for now. But let's take a step back and look at the landscape in a bigger scale here. Google, Microsoft, Amazon, and my personal favorite, Tesla, are all trillion-dollar companies. They're all part of the 4 comma club. And when I start to look at these companies and their trajectory, not just in these specific companies, but as the market as a whole, the world as a whole, I no longer believe that these companies are inflated in their prices. Because when it comes to investing, I do believe that these companies are now the safest companies that you could really put your money in. That's why they're in the forefront of most of these indexes. And what do all these companies have in common? Tech. They're not as risky in the day-to-day, but they are long-term rewarding. Statistically, I've seen it in my own portfolio. Now, I will say personally, I did take a chance with Tesla when they were still being mocked at years ago, that they were a niche company and they weren't gonna make it. And not on this greater effect, I also took a chance with Apple back when Android was still very popular and booming, and they were saying iPhones were, weaker hardware, that they were bending. Every time there was bad press, I took a chance on these companies. And it was a chance, I took a risk, because I thought maybe at one point they could very well be eclipsed by another company. But on the foresight of looking at everything, I knew that these companies weren't really gonna go anywhere. So how are we defining risk? The day-to-day, maybe, but long-term? Tesla was the only one that was probably at risk of going bankrupt. So what's the lesson here? None of these companies are doomed, especially not the trillion-dollar ones. Tech is leading the way, not just in products and services, but infrastructure too, like AWS. Now, I'm a fanboy of Apple and Tesla because I use them personally in my life, but I own all these stocks individually as well. But let's say you don't want to yeet all your money into one stock like Amazon or Apple. There are alternatives. Even in index funds, there's tech-specific index funds. For example, the ticker symbol VGT, which is Vanguard's Information Technology ETF, has over 92% of tech in their portfolio, which then it holds Apple or Microsoft or Adobe, and that's how you can diversify that way in a single stock. Another good one is VOO, which is Vanguard's S&P 500 tracking, and they track all the companies, Apple, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Facebook, all these known names are tracked. And that's over 25%, that's about 26% of their portfolio. And that one is just tracking that stuff too. So that's another way you can get exposed. So say you don't want to do the legwork and look into the specifics of which one you have, just buy a little bit of everything. That way, that's another good way you can do that. And you can put any amount of money into it. But ultimately, again, I make the case to you that tech is the future, which we're living in now. But you see these companies like Facebook, now known as Meta, who's pushing this whole metaverse thing. And you have people like the old Twitter CEO, Jack Dorsey, who stepped down because he wants to pursue Bitcoin and crypto, all things that I'm sure we'll cover eventually. But all these things, what they have in common is the tech side of it. So if you feel like being riskier about it, you can't just YOLO all your money into like Apple. It is the safest stock. Before Tesla really blew up in size in 2020, my greatest performing stock has always been Apple, and it always will probably be Apple. But Tesla as a newcomer is riding that same trail. I mean, Elon Musk is now like the richest guy in the world, not by coincidence. You know all these names, whether it's Steve Jobs or Tim Cook, Jack Dorsey, you know Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, and all these names and these high profile people that were involved in these companies. That's where the trend's leading to. Now, it's not volatile, it's not risky in the sense that if you're trying to make a quick buck, that's not what these companies are about. It's longevity. Something where you're gonna put your money away, tuck it away for 10, 20, 30 years, and it's gonna be safe. It's gonna be safe. When my Tesla stock blew up, I wasn't expecting it to hit the numbers that they're at now. I was expecting this to be in 10 or 20 years from now. I was preparing for the long run of all that. But, you know, sometimes you just kind of get lucky, and that's fine too. And I'm always tracking like smaller companies that kind of feed off of these bigger companies and see how they're gonna perform. For example, like Adobe. I track Adobe and see how they're performing. Finance has kind of been more integrated into technology as well. So when you look at companies like Visa and how they're trying to get really involved into the crypto world, you know, it's a symbiotic relationship that's going on right there. So I follow Visa very, very closely, invest in those guys as well. Now, what I won't do is buy hype. And that's where the real risk kind of comes into play, doesn't it? When I think of Tesla, now it's known as a known company, but people are like, oh no, it's not. It's a gimmick. But those guys had been around for quite a long time. For a tech company that made it past a decade, yeah, those are old years for a tech company. But then you have somebody called Nikola come out, and Nikola just try to write off the Tesla name. So anything that tries to get too close to its competitor, that company didn't do well. It's not doing well at all. But anyway, there's my case for you guys. I personally am over like 70% of my portfolio is in tech, and I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. I don't think it's a bad idea. If you want to diversify your investments, do it in tech. Just get a little bit of different tech, you know? I'm just as big buying into Google and Microsoft as I am Apple. Just Apple yields the higher return for me personally. But to say that any of these companies might go under, they're too big to fail. I've learned now from my experience, especially after the pandemic, that most companies are too big to fail, and they'll get some type of bailout. Whether you agree with them or not, that's not the point. I just bet on these guys now. Facebook's a good example. I hate Facebook. I genuinely do not like them, but I own their stock. So what do you guys think? Do you think I'm crazy for this? I feel crazy, but you know, high risk, high reward, kind of, at least in one sector, doesn't feel that risky to me. But those are my experiences. If you feel like sharing your experiences, let me know. I'll be happy to see what you guys have to say. And until then, I will catch you guys later. Peace.